everybody. This is Ryan from Stake Pool, and on today we have Dewayne Cameron, the guy who is behind Liquid Finance. That's with a W, not a U. So, Dewayne, would you mind giving us a quick background that you have in the space?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Ryan. So like you said, Liquid Finance, we're building an open source liquidity protocol on Cardano's Plutus extended UTXO layer. My background in the space kind of dates back to 2017 when I came into crypto. I guess, I was in business school at the time in England studying about traditional finance and stocks and equities and, learning about how these systems work, and kind of took my deep dive into Ethereum and Bitcoin and the whole crypto space. But I think as soon as I saw the initial Charles Whiteboard video, it was pretty much a Cardano rabbit hole from there. And that was pretty early on. So I would say, pretty much November of 2017 onwards, it's been, all Cardano, but truly being a student of the DeFi game and understanding what's being built on Ethereum and these other blockchains, because I think it's important. If you understand what's already been built, you can have a second mover advantage when building your own protocol. Like, years later now we're launching Liquid, and obviously that wasn't the plan way back then when I was first getting into it. But I think anyone who's a student of the game, whether it's DeFi, NFTs, whatever their, sweet spot and sector of blockchain is, there's a lot that can be learned from what's already been built if you're actually an entrepreneur considering building something yourself.
Man, that is spot on. I think a lot of us can harken back to the days of the Charles Whiteboard video. Yeah. It's kind of like, it's like a black hole, and once you click play, like the first 10 seconds in, you've reached that part, and you're like, I can't escape now. It's done.
Yeah,
that's
definitely
fantastic. So, question for you, I think everybody has to ask, actually. I guess my first question is the most important. What microphone are you using? I'm a music guy, and so when I did a live stream with Benjamin Cohen, everybody was like having mic envy, because I have a Townsend Labs Sphere L22. It's like this massive microphone thing. So I just have to ask, what are you using? Built in?
I'm actually using my AirPods right now. Like I said, I didn't know we were going to have like an official so I wasn't even, this is kind of impromptu on me, but yes, I do have like the toner mic. Sometimes when I go on like Rick McCracken's show, they demand that you have good mic and audio set up, and there's a whole testing phase before you jump on. So you have to have your, things ready to go, your mic, and then your in-ear mic, and then your actual external microphone. They make sure that you have all that set up. I'm sorry if my sound isn't too great, but
you're perfectly fine. See, I have some nice little nifty tools. I live in spectral denoise land after this, so I get to play with things. All right, so next question. As a student of DeFi, and you've been on the Ethereum blockchain, and I think Rick actually did a poll just a couple of days ago of how many people have actually participated in a DeFi protocol, and it's a tiny percentage of people. I'm posting a video today that I went and showed how to use MetaMask to purchase some AGI tokens off of Uniswap today. So, and half of the value is in gas fees as opposed to the actual price of the token that I'm buying.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think this is a great leading question, but why build this on Cardano? And particularly for those of the viewers who are unfamiliar with the space, what problem did you see in Cardano's ecosystem that you were trying to solve when you went to town with this project?
Yeah, great question. I think beyond just like the inefficiency of, Ethereum, we talk about the gas costs and the computation and how certain things are done on that blockchain from a layered standpoint, it all being just one big world computer, and what that means, how the miners extract their, kind of MEV, miner extractable value from the way they have the gas almost like gas market miner model on Ethereum. So just beyond like those basic inefficiencies of the blockchain, the security guarantees that you get building in a Haskell stack like Plutus, there were things that Cardano had tangible real world differentiators from Ethereum. And to me, it starts with the teleprism. It starts with, you're actually providing economic identities as opposed to just providing, in some ways, decentralized financial access. Even to me, when you think about the real kind of DeFi protocols that are alive on Ethereum, you have to have a MetaMask and understanding of how to acquire ETH and how to hold these different things in your wallet, connect your wallet to a DApp, send amount of funds back, track that position. There's actually there's some level of what I call an inclusivity threshold that's already been built up around Ethereum because of the gas cost, because of the basic understanding of MetaMask, these things that you need to know to just step in and actually get the value out of using these DeFi protocols. I think on Cardano, a lot of that is going to come, much simpler, mainly because everyone already uses Daedalus and Yoroi. So this is going to be a dApp that's kind of an extension of that wallet experience that everyone's already used to from staking today. The second is you have Atala Prism. You have this identity framework that's going to sit right on top of these wallets, right on top of the Cardano blockchain, really, and allow you to basically connect my identity to my value and to all the transactions that I'm creating on chain, themselves valuable when there's some identity that can be linked to them. But if I just have like a 0x Ethereum wallet or address, I can't build a true financial stack around that. I can't build a system that takes my identity and creates a more capital efficient lending product for me, or maybe even an insurance-backed lending product based on my jurisdiction. Like, you don't get those things until you come into a world that says, okay, identity's in the stack. Now we can have things like Atala Prism-based credit scores where we, integrate with the third-party company who maybe already operates in the Web2 world and has a credit risk scoring product and model that they've now built into the Atala Prism kind of Web3 DID standard, wallet app. And now you essentially have Cardano users who have some Cardano ADA value in their wallet, but they also have a true identity. They can do things like a credit module. They can output a risk score. They can use that risk score in products like Liqwid in our protocol, and then actually have access to maybe a more capital efficient or even a zero collateral lending product. These are kind of the things that we want to quickly get to post V1. It all starts with just being able to kind of implement secure open source liquidity pools on chain, which is our V1. It's all over collateralized lending essentially. But from there, you can really add some things. And once you have identity, you quickly gain credit, you quickly gain the opportunity to do things like insurance, to monetize some of those transactions as a borrower and be able to attest to that in a different, non-liquid protocol. That's when you get real composability wins and gains from building on Plutus. And I think that, the first 6 months, we're going to see a wave of dApp innovation. Like, we've seen nothing, yet in terms of like the things that are just announced or what's been out there so far. I think when you get to that 6 to 9 months post Plutus launch phase, you're really talking about like starting to hit that S curve of innovation on dApps that are DeFi specific, building on top of Plutus, and the composability wins start happening naturally because you don't have to ask anyone to use the Liquid APIs or the SDK to build your own, protocol that maybe just talks to Liquid's open source liquidity pools in a way that you're building a third party, basically almost like a secondary product offering on top of just an open source, interest rate curve product. So there's a lot you can do. You can do tranche lending, you can do insurance-backed products, you can go into the privacy lending space with dark pools and things like that. There's a lot of different use cases just on top of, liquidity pools for interest rate curves that you can really do. When you talk about DEXs that are going to come along as aggregators, and they're going to combine all the Cardano DEXs and all the Cardano lending protocols into one system that allows just a clean, easy UI, whether you want to do swapping, lending, whatever it is, asset management, insurance, you'll be able to do it in just their UI. So I definitely think like these, kind of almost secondary and third party, product offerings, those are going to come in due time. And the reason you build on Plutus is because the timeline for when you have to launch a system and when those secondary offerings can be built on top is actually pretty quick. So that's, to me, is what's most exciting. It's just a matter of getting Plutus out and live, a matter of getting enough Haskell devs trained up in it. But once that happens, it's kind of off to the races.
That's fantastic. That was a much more in-depth answer than I was actually expecting. And you mentioned some things that really kind of excite me, like dark pools and stuff like that. I think that's a really, really cool use case. And essentially, you're painting a picture of a world where you built your protocol on top of an open source protocol. Your protocol is open source. Then eventually somebody else is going to be able to build a product upon your product, which is using the Cardano settlement layer, right? And I think that's that's powerful and amazing, I think. Which you mentioned something. You started mentioning a whole bunch of different ideas and use cases. And one of my next questions was going to be, for those people who have interacted in the Ethereum DeFi space, what would you say is the comparable project in the Ethereum DeFi space that Liqwid is to the Cardano ecosystem? But I'm sure you have an answer, but I want to point out to the listeners, the things that you just mentioned are actually multiple different projects that are working on the Ethereum DeFi space, which is, to me, pretty amazing. So take that.
Great question, Ryan. Absolutely. I would say the most straightforward is just Aave or Compound, right? Open source liquidity for lending. But you look at, like you said, what's built on top of Aave and Compound. And to me, one of the most exciting is like doing tranche risk or doing insurance-backed lending products. So an example of tranche risk is saying like, I can break up the Aave, liquidity lending pools essentially and say, I can guarantee a senior tranche at a maybe 3 to 5% APY. And then this junior tranche can basically be the floating variable rate that could be as high as 12%, but as low as maybe 2%, depending on how many loans default, how much interest gets repaid in that market that you've tranched the loans for. To me, a really cool use case, because you're saying, hey, this is how traditional finance plays the game today, right? They tranche their loan risk, and they tranche risk across all of the traditional financial products for very real reasons. Investors only have certain risk appetites, and you have to be able to build a product that kind of caters to that. The other insurance-backed system is like Cover is a really good example, or Nexus Mutual, these type of things, where you can actually insure some of the smart contract risks that exist in all of these DeFi protocols. So I think, there's a lot of different things when you talk about building on top of just whether it's an open source liquidity protocol for interest rates like Liqwid, whether it's for swapping assets like Uniswap. I know you mentioned doing a demo video of that earlier. Like, I think all of these things, there's third-party products and secondary product offerings that even the core team or some other team could easily build on top of it as like a V1.5, V2 into the future. To me, the most exciting things I've seen, things like InstaDApp that like combine swapping mechanisms and lending mechanisms. SushiSwap has their whole bento box and Kashi lending product out now. So there's like really cool examples of like aggregators that are taking lending and DEX swapping into one as like a third, kind of layer 3 application. I think that to me is like, what'd you say?
Am I correct in saying that Polygon is one of those?
To be honest, I don't know enough about the Aave Polygon model. I know that it's built on Matic, and I know that it allows things like a Binance Smart Chain level of just first of all, ERC to another chain's bridge, so a cross-chain swap, but just a low cost, kind of pretty highly efficient blockchain, I would say. Even though you don't know how decentralized these things are, like we have no idea what the trade-off of decentralization is, and it's probably massive to create those low cost fees and things like that. But at the end of the day, like, they are enabling a pretty novel use case, because they're saying, hey, here's cross-chain swaps that actually work at cost. Anyone can use this. There's people who are using Aave now on Polygon who I promise you, a week or two before it launched last, a couple weeks, they could not use Aave on Ethereum. It's just too expensive to try to use that.
It definitely seems to be a pay to play at this point with the gas fees on the Ethereum layer 2, right? So I think people are talking about layer 2 solutions and et cetera, and like roll-ups and stuff. But in my mind, that's a Band-Aid, and it's a Band-Aid to get you through until they somehow change the tire on this moving car that is ETH. We're going to call it 1.5, right? To get the 2.0, if and when. But, that's a whole nother video for a whole nother date. So for those of you who don't know, Liqwid actually already have participated in Project Catalyst, and they were in round 2 funding. I know they got, I think, 54,000 USD for funding for round 2. And then they also, if I'm not mistaken, for fund 3, you guys had, I think, last I checked, 862 like upvotes or applies on Idea Scale. And I think you guys also got selected for round 3 funding as well, right? Could you give us, for those that are keeping track of the project, if you like, you can go to liquid.finance to start, and you can go down the rabbit hole. But for those that are viewing the video, can you give us a little update on the roadmap for you guys, where you're at?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So right now we're at the point where we're building everything in our Plutus contracts. We're heads down in the on-chain template Haskell piece of the contract, and the off-chain getting Plutus application backend to work, so we can actually connect our contract endpoints to the front ends that we've been working on for some time. And we had success in Catalyst. Fund 2, we raised around 41,000. Fund 3, we had 2 different proposals. One is to build a developer SDK, kind of like complete developer section of our website for third-party devs, and that's in the works right now. And that was 53K, and another 53 was just for the actual project funding itself, and continuing to pay full-time developer salaries and things like that. But we have a team of 6 to 7 Haskell devs at this point that are working near full-time on this project. We start in the IOHK private testnet on Thursday, so we're really excited about that. And M Labs, the company that we're working with, is a lot of Haskell specific, full stack Haskell projects that they work on with companies like JustPay that are, really business to business payment infrastructure rails that are Haskell full stack across their, entire systems essentially. So they come with a lot of just really expert domain Haskell experience in the financial kind of space, and the use cases that they're developing and working on for companies like JustPay and Tillit. They're not too different than what we're, building with our lending app. So it's a nice synergy that you get from working with a company like M Labs and kind of the experience that they bring to the table from day one. But yeah, we've been hacking at, Plutus for essentially the last 2.5 months. We're ready to release a testnet app at some point at the end of this month, early May. We're not going to put a date on it yet. We're just going to, when we get closer and have full confidence, say, hey, a couple of days out, we're releasing this thing and on the date X, and you can download your Cardano dataless testnet wallet and connect to the DApp and, use our contracts, look at exactly what we've built in terms of the Plutus contracts and scripts that we have right now. Know that each week we'll, either release a new version of that contract, refactor, release a new contract that's a, completely different or new part of the system that we need to tack on. Whether it be governance, liquidations, borrowing, all the kind of key contracts that we have in our system. So yeah, right now I would say we're definitely in that kind of deep down in development mode. But every day I read the Slack, I see the progress that gets made. It's definitely an iceberg in many ways, and the devs are having a really good time in Plutus. If you're a true Haskeller, or you have some Haskell devs, I think that the myth of no one wanting to build in Plutus or something like that, or building on Cardano, to me, it couldn't be further from the truth. Haskell devs really enjoy building on Plutus, and a lot of the tools, the infrastructure, the environments, the things that they're already used to from building their Haskell applications, they can directly apply to Plutus in kind of very tangible ways. So yeah, we've had a really good time with that. And I would say, if you want to really know where we are, just wait for the first testnet app to release, because after that, you can pretty much bet on each week a new version or a new contract or a refactored version of it being released.
So first of all, I am so impressed with how you guys have tackled this from day one. So just shout out to you guys for how you've the roadmap, how you laid things out. It's very, methodical, and it's chunked, I think, in a way that's accessible, and it's not overreaching, and it's not overpromising, right? I would always, from an investment standpoint, I would always want my project that I'm investing in to, at least underpromise and then overperform, as opposed to the opposite, right? Right. I think a lot of people are so caught up about smart contracts coming to the Cardano mainnet in August, potentially, right? But I'm more excited personally about the testnet as soon as that goes live, and seeing this plethora of projects that are going to be just from day one, like plug and play and have a working, honestly, already have a working product, but it's just running on a testnet as opposed to the mainnet, right? So you mentioning, we already have our Haskell devs working on this. We basically have our stuff written. We're really just focusing on how to plug and play with the entry and out points of the network, right? So to me, that's super impressive, and I am looking forward to seeing what product that you guys come up with. I do have a couple of more questions. One, I want everybody to know that there's as Cardano grows, the number of bad actors are also going to grow, right? And we've already seen this with the NFT craze. There've been some less than above board per se token launches of things, etc. Not calling any project out specifically. However, I do want everyone to know there will not be a Liquid token pre-sale that is on the website. So if you see any person on Twitter saying Liquid tokens pre-sale, send me ADA to this address and you'll get X amount back, please don't do that. So please don't. One question, do you have any idea about the conversion rate between ADA and Liquid tokens? Do you know what that's going to be, or can you discuss that right now?
No, I don't. I mean, the thing is, it's price discovery, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I sure can.
Yeah, it's all price discovery at the end of the day, because what's going to happen is when we launch the V1 protocol, like you mentioned, that's the first time anyone will be able to connect their dataless mainnet wallets and provide liquidity to the system. So at that point, that's when users first start yielding the token and then either listing it on a DEX getting the token listed on multiple dexes and actual price discovery taking off from there based on supply and demand, that's going to determine actually the price of ADA, what the price compared to the US dollar actually is. Our team is not going to have any input on that. We'll have as much input as the Cardano ADA whale who decides to mine our token and, sell it or hold it or put it on a DEX, right? So I was just saying, I don't really, take too much time to think about what the price is going to be or what the conversion rate will be, because I've talked about the fact that it doesn't matter if this token is trading at 10 cents or $10. It's serving the exact same purpose no matter what the price is, right? And that is a coordinating mechanism in your governance layer that's giving users the ability to introduce proposals, to update the system, to draw funds from the DAO treasury. Kind of like the same way your ADA represents voting power and catalyst, we've built a system and a way to actually upgrade our contracts using the LQ governance token and Liquid. So, at the end of the day, the price is going to be what the price is going to be. I'm not too concerned about that. To be real, what I wake up every day at 6 a.m. and think about is, how is our mechanism design going to work in this UTXO model? Are the design patterns we're choosing secure, efficient, upgradable, composable? These things are kind of really what dominate my thoughts more than what, the value or the price of the token is going to be, essentially. Because listen, if we're the first ones on this Plutus UTXO model and we build the design pattern that other devs can come along, pick up and run with, to me, that is going to be the most valuable thing as one of the first DeFi projects launching on Cardano. And, I know there's going to be hundreds of different DeFi experiments on this system. Like I said, I'm a student of the game in Ethereum. I've been around Cardano, since the early days, and I want to see Liquid be one of the first kind of projects that launches not only in the right way, but sets a standard for other DeFi teams, sets a design pattern example and resource that other teams can come and look at. Because to me, that's what it means to kind of be first and be a leader in the space in terms of the Cardano DeFi space. So that's really more what I'm trying to focus on these days, to be honest. But yeah.
No, I think to me, that's the best answer I think you could have given. I mean, really, because like you said, I think you guys setting the standard to where it is, and then also potentially, but you guys releasing this protocol and your project the way it is, you could, if everybody adopts this, then, that's the way it's going to be, right? So I think that would be pretty powerful, and impactful. So just a couple more questions and I'll get out of your hair. But potential, you mentioned earlier about synergy amongst the devs and other companies you're collaborating with, but also a lot of my viewers, I've mentioned Ergo, Singularity Net, potential, DEXs and anything like that. What any potential collaborations that you guys have considered with either AGI or potentially Age USD / Sigma USD, or any DEXs that you guys already are thinking about collaborating with? Or
yeah, that's a great question. I don't have any hard partnerships or kind of announcements for that. I'm keen to find out what exactly IOHK's plans for the algorithmic stablecoin are going to be. I think those are things that you kind of need to announce, well beyond the launch of contracts. To me, the DEX as well, right? Like, is that something that IOHK and Emergo are collaborating on behind the scenes and they're going to announce publicly around the time of Plutus launch? I hope so. We'd be able to launch right into liquidity, right? That would be like very ideal. Then having to do something like depend on an Ergo DEX to make the migration, or depending on some non-native way to do swapping. Like, I love the NFTs that are blowing up on Cardano, but let's be honest, it's not that efficient to say you have to go to Discord and rely on this, escrow bot to kind of do swapping. You need to be able to do that from day one on a blockchain for like a real at scale, system that's managing billions of dollars. So I think that those are things that, we don't have, we focus on partnerships that are going to be products that we build on top of Liquid, right? And for me, a key partnership is thinking about companies in the Web2 space that are already operating, like I mentioned, in that credit scoring, modeling, lending space, in that insurance-backed lending space today. Because to me, there's some real synergies and wins you can have there with an open source liquidity protocol and, a product that I can download on my, mobile, app store essentially, and have a credit score outputted to me. If I'm a user in India, Sub-Saharan Africa, West Africa, it doesn't matter. I'm treated all the same. It just reads my data points on my mobile phone and tells me, how creditworthy or how, trustworthy of a borrower I am, essentially. To me, those are the companies that I can build very interesting, capital efficient secondary product offerings off from today, just with, the contracts that we're developing.
just to clarify, I would say we're about, maybe 40 to 50% developed with our Plutus contracts. Right now we're refactoring the borrowing contract, and we have the, market initiation, the supplying, withdrawing, the exchange rate contract. So I would say, yeah, right about that 40 to 50% mark, and on pace to enter into a complete protocol audit with Tweed by July. That's kind of when we have our, code freeze happening. So yeah, there's definitely going to be plenty of chances for users to engage the system, test the contracts. We definitely don't have, like you asked, the answer to like what the stablecoin system or what the DEX solution is going to be. I definitely know that the protocol Sigma USD is what IOHK plans on implementing. So however they do that, we'll just, take that version of it and definitely make a market for it on Liquid. But I think as far as the DEX, that's news that we're waiting on, in anticipation, as excited as everyone else, trust me, because it matters for a token like LQ to be directly listed into liquidity on chain.
No, I'm with you completely. I think everything you're saying, it's resonating with me because one of the things, actually the biggest thing that I'm doing with Muse Pool, it's helping me fund bringing blockchain, and particularly ADA, to the music industry. And so right now I'm actually in the fledgling stage of, I have a couple of devs right now of creating a decentralized streaming platform for artists who are not, who aren't signed with record labels and who haven't already given away their copyright rights on their music. So, and then trying to figure out, all right, what stablecoin are we going to use on the back end? And then how are we going to connect this? If they're going to offer NFTs, what marketplace do we connect to and collaborate with, and et cetera. So this is all extremely, extremely good information to just put out there for everyone to know. Well, Dewayne, I've kept you for a hot minute. So I just want to say, again, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and chat with everybody. I know this has answered a lot of questions for myself, and then a lot of the viewers' questions as far as what you're trying to accomplish. So I feel that you guys are going to have wonderful success in this. And so I'm excited to participate and use your protocol whenever it comes out. And so I'll be one of the first on the testnet working on this. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on, Ryan. Seriously. And I look forward to definitely coming back on again when we launch the testnet app or leading up to mainnet launch. It'd be good to connect again before that.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thanks again so much. And thank you everybody at home who took a moment to watch this. And I will talk to y'all next time.